Hey there, Bob here. The knife glides through the onion. Its crunch echoes in the quiet kitchen. Maya leans on the counter, wine glass in hand, watching me work. 7 years together, and she still teases me for how I dice, precise, methodical, like the chef I never became. You're overthinking it again, Bob, she says, swirling her drink. Her tone is light, but there's a hint of challenge in it. It's not overthinking. It's getting it right, I reply, reaching for the garlic. You can't rush good flavor. She raises an eyebrow. And yet we'd still be eating leftovers if it weren't for me. This is our Sunday ritual, born back when we first met. Cooking brought us together, a shared escape from long work weeks. We'd spend hours experimenting, her daring pairings against my loyalty to tradition. She pushed for wild combinations, mango and chili in a salad, while I perfected sauces that simmered for hours. We called it balance. She called it play. I glance over at her as she taps her nails on the stem of her glass. The dim light of the kitchen softens her face, but her restless energy never quite sits still. Once, I found it electric, like she could light up the world with an idea and carry me along for the ride. Pass me the basil, she says, interrupting my thoughts. I hand it over, and she tears it with her fingers. I'd always insisted on a knife for uniformity, but she claims the oils release better this way. We used to argue about things like that, a playful back and forth that always ended in laughter or a compromise. Tonight, though, there's no laughter. The air feels heavier, the silence is longer. Maya tastes the sauce simmering on the stove and frowns. It needs something. Salt, I suggest, already reaching for the shaker. No, something else, she says, grabbing a jar of smoked paprika. I pause. Smoked paprika? In marinara? That's not how it's supposed to taste. She adds a pinch anyway. I watch her, my hand hovering over the pot. Once I'd have let it go, curious to see how her experiment turned out. Now, irritation simmers beneath the surface. You're going to overpower it. And you're going to bore us with the same old recipe. Her words hit harder than I expect. I pull my hand away, letting her take the lead. The kitchen we built together used to feel like ours, a place where we blended chaos and order, where compromise made the food better. But lately it's starting to feel like we're cooking in two different rooms. I glance at the bookshelf where our cookbooks sit side by side, hers bright and modern, mine worn with handwritten notes in the margins. Our shared dream used to sit there too, a cafe of our own, where she'd create bold, colorful dishes, and I'd curate menus steeped in tradition. We'd spend late nights sketching out plans on paper napkins, arguing over names and logos. Now, those napkins gather dust in the drawer by the sink. I stir the pot, tasting the sauce she's changed. It's fine. Not bad, not great. Fine. Good? She asks, watching me. It's different, I say. She exhales sharply, as though she's been holding her breath, and turns to grab plates. Different isn't always bad, Bob. The words hang between us, a subtle jab I don't push back on. Dinner is quiet, aside from the occasional clink of forks against plates. We used to talk endlessly, our conversations running the gamut from stupid memes to plans for our cafe. Now she scrolls through her phone while I wipe a smear of sauce from the table. After we eat, she disappears into the living room. I linger in the kitchen, rinsing dishes under warm water. The smell of paprika clings to the air, unfamiliar and faintly irritating. I think about the nights when we'd laugh so hard we'd forget to eat. How she used to sneak bites while I wasn't looking, claiming she was taste testing. How I'd lean over her shoulder to correct her knife grip, only for her to swat me away. It's been a while since we had one of those nights. I finish cleaning up and head to the doorway, watching her curl up on the couch with her laptop. She doesn't glance up. Want to plan the cafe menu after this? I ask, the words tentative, almost foreign. She looks over, her face unreadable. Maybe later. I nod and retreat, leaving her in the glow of her screen. The kitchen is spotless, every surface gleaming. But it feels empty now, like it belongs to someone else. As I turn off the light, I catch the faint scent of basil and paprika lingering in the air, a reminder of what we used to share and what's slowly slipping away. Spring brings the first signs of strain. Maya dives headfirst into experimental cooking, pushing boundaries with bold ingredients and techniques. She's always been adventurous in the kitchen, but lately, her ideas feel less like evolution and more like a rebellion against what we built together. One evening, she's giddy with excitement, waving her notebook as she walks into the kitchen. "Bob, you won't believe this idea: kimchi lasagna with a miso bechamel." I glance up from the cutting board, where I'm working on my grandmother's bolognese. "Sounds interesting." "It's brilliant," she says, flipping pages. "Fusion is where everything's headed. People want to be surprised." I set the knife down, careful to keep my voice steady. "Sometimes people want what they know, too." Her smile falters, just a flicker. "You really don't get it, do you?" It's not a fight, not yet. But it plants something bitter between us, a difference we can't quite name. By summer, the tension grows harder to ignore. Maya's coworkers start dropping by after hours, brainstorming wild creations over glasses of wine. They talk about pushing boundaries and redefining traditions, phrases that make me grit my teeth. I sit at the table, silent, as they toss around ideas for spicy chocolate risotto or foie gras tacos. One night, after they leave, I catch her tweaking the bolognese recipe. "What's that?" I ask, watching her pour a splash of something dark into the pot. "Balsamic reduction," she says casually, stirring it in. "It doesn't need that," I reply, keeping my tone even. She doesn't look up. "Maybe it does." The bite I take later is layered, complex, and completely wrong. "It's not the same," I say, careful to tread lightly. "It's better," she answers, without hesitation. That's when the dam breaks. "Why do you have to change everything?" The words tumble out sharper than I intended. "Why do you want to stay stuck in the past?" She shoots back. Her voice trembles, a mix of frustration and something else I can't place. She storms out, leaving me alone with a pot of sauce that tastes nothing like home. By fall, the cracks turn into chasms. Maya's world expands, dinners with her new team, tasting events, endless talks of fusion. I cling to tradition, to the recipes that feel like an anchor. We drift further apart, avoiding the kitchen together. When I suggest entering a cooking competition as a team, she hesitates. "I was thinking of doing it solo," she says carefully. "I've been working on something really different." "Right," I say, masking the sting. "Good luck then." Her dish, a fusion-style seared duck, takes first place. My handmade ravioli comes in third. She celebrates with her new friends, and I walk home alone. By winter, the kitchen feels like neutral ground, either of us eager to linger. We eat at different times, pretending it's convenience and not avoidance. The shared grocery list dwindles to essentials, and her half of the fridge fills with ingredients I can't even pronounce. One night, I find her chopping lemongrass at the counter. "Smells good," I say, hoping to close the gap. "Thanks," she mutters, focused on her knife work. "It's for tomorrow's potluck," she adds, already somewhere else in her mind. I don't bother asking who the potluck is with. The answer wouldn't matter. Months go by, and it feels like we're both just going through the motions. The kitchen, once a space of joy and creativity, now feels heavy with the weight of what's wrong between us. Every time Maya and I try to cook together, there's a noticeable distance, an unspoken wall that neither of us knows how to break. Her promotion is part of it. It pulls her into a world of new trends, new chefs, new ways of thinking about food. She's constantly talking about molecular gastronomy, experimental fusion cuisine, and I feel left behind. Her excitement about these new ideas feels like a push against everything I believe in. I've always believed in tradition, the simple, honest food that connects you to people, to your past. But Maya? She wants more. She wants something new. One evening, she comes home with a bag full of ingredients I don't recognize. "I'm thinking of trying something bold for the catering gig," she says, setting the bag on the counter. How about we do an upscale version of street food? I don't even know how to respond. Maya, we don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. People want what they know. What's familiar? She looks at me like I'm crazy. Familiar is boring, Bob. The words sting, but I swallow it down. We continue arguing over the menu, trying to find some middle ground, but the truth is neither of us is really listening to the other. She's insistent on her modern take on food, and I'm stuck on my old-school recipes. The day of the event, I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. We're not on the same page anymore, and it's not just about food, it's about everything. The catering doesn't go smoothly. Maya's enthusiasm doesn't match the reality of the situation. I'm in the kitchen trying to manage the food, and she's running around directing people and making decisions I'm not part of. At one point, we're plating the appetizers when she tells me to stop overthinking it. Overthinking? I snap, frustration leaking out. I'm trying to make sure everything is perfect. She rolls her eyes. You're obsessed with perfection. It's just food. I can't look at her. We finish the event in silence, and when it's over, the kitchen feels emptier than ever. After that, things don't get better. We try cooking together again, but it's never the same. Every dish feels like a compromise, every recipe a battleground. The dream of opening the cafe together starts to feel distant, like it was always just a fantasy, never something real. One night, we're sitting in the kitchen, the leftovers from another failed attempt at a meal spread across the counter. Maya doesn't speak at first. I don't either. I know what's coming. I think we need a break, she says, finally looking at me. I don't say anything. It feels like I've heard this before, but it doesn't make it hurt any less. I'm not saying it's over, but… She trails off, unsure how to finish. I nod, but it's not the kind of nod that says anything. I don't know if I agree, but I also don't know what to say. The silence settles between us, thick and suffocating. There's no more arguing about food, no more frantic attempts to make things work. There's just the quiet, the overwhelming sense that we've drifted too far apart to fix it. Later, when I'm cleaning up the kitchen, it hits me. We've stopped cooking for each other. It's like we've stopped caring about what the other wants, stopped trying to meet in the middle. All those years of Sunday meals, of learning how to make the perfect sauce or the crispiest roast chicken, now feel like distant memories. I can't help but wonder if we've cooked ourselves into this place, too. Too many recipes, too many fights over the right way to do things, until we've lost what made us good together. And now, I don't even know what to do with the ingredients we have left. Section 4, Bitter Aftertaste. It's been weeks since the catering disaster, but Maya and I don't seem any closer to fixing things. In fact, every conversation feels more strained, more forced. The silence between us grows louder. It's at a dinner party, of all places, that it finally hits us. Maya's colleagues, people she admires and works with now, are there. They're all talking about the latest trends in food, sharing stories of the exclusive restaurants they've visited. I'm sitting there, half listening, my mind on the argument we had earlier about the wine pairings. Maya's face lights up as she talks about her latest project. But it's like I'm invisible. When she looks at me, it's like she doesn't even recognize me anymore. She's not the woman who once listened to me talk about my grandmother's recipes with the same passion I had. She's someone else now. Someone who has moved beyond me. Bob, I want you to meet Sarah. She's the head chef at a new pop-up in the city, Maya says, introducing me to a woman with a confident smile and an air of authority. I shake her hand, trying to hold it together, but I feel small in this world Maya is living in. The world that no longer includes me. Later, when the dinner is winding down, I hear Maya laughing with her colleagues across the room. It's a sound I haven't heard in a while, and it's like a knife twisting in my chest. I'm supposed to be the one who makes her laugh. I'm supposed to be the one who shares those moments with her, but tonight, I'm just a shadow in her life. I slip outside for a minute, hoping the cold air will clear my head. When I come back, I find her in the kitchen, talking to Sarah. I don't know what it is about Sarah. Maybe it's the way she looks at Maya like they're on the same wavelength. but I can't take it. You never told me about this, I say, my voice sharp. Maya looks at me, surprised. What? Sarah, I mutter. Your new best friend. Didn't think I needed to be updated on all the changes in your life. I see the flash of irritation cross her face, but it's quickly replaced with something else. Something colder. I didn't think it was necessary, Bob, she says, her tone distant. That's when I realize it. We're not even on the same page anymore. We haven't been for a while. Our relationship, our love for food, even our dreams, they've all changed, and not in the way we wanted. By the time the party ends, I'm exhausted. We don't speak on the drive home. The tension between us feels thicker than it's ever been, and I know we're not going to be able to ignore it for much longer. The next morning, Maya doesn't say anything about what happened last night. I don't either. But we both know it's there, hanging in the air. We're past the point of pretending things are fine. I try to focus on the kitchen, trying to bring some sense of normalcy back, but it's hard. The countertops feel colder, the knives heavier. Every meal feels like an obligation instead of something we share. We don't even talk about opening that cafe anymore. In the months that follow, our attempts to cook together become less and less frequent. Every time we do, something goes wrong. A misstep. A burnt dish. An argument over technique. It's like we've lost our rhythm, and it's never coming back. And it's not just in the kitchen. It's in everything. The emotional distance grows every day, and soon, it's impossible to ignore. Our grocery lists are different. Our favorite brands don't line the shelves anymore. I buy what I've always bought. She buys ingredients for dishes I can't pronounce. I keep trying to tell myself it's just a rough patch, but deep down, I know it's more than that. The kitchen, the meals, the food that once brought us together, it's no longer enough. And maybe it never was. We're not just falling out of sync in the kitchen. We're falling out of sync with each other, and I'm not sure how to fix it. Maya's packed. The last of her things are crammed into a suitcase and a couple of cardboard boxes. She stands in the kitchen, looking at the cabinets, the countertops, as if trying to remember something, anything, good about this place, about us. But I can see it in her eyes. There's nothing left to remember. I stand by the doorway, watching her, the weight of the silence between us almost unbearable. The kitchen, once our battleground and sanctuary, now feels like a place we're both trying to escape from. You're really going? I ask, though I already know the answer. She doesn't look at me, but she nods. Yeah. I think it's time. I thought I'd be angrier. I thought I'd yell or fight for her to stay, but I don't. There's nothing left to say. This is the end, and neither of us is strong enough to stop it. She pulls open the fridge, grabs her bottle of olive oil, and sets it down on the counter next to a jar of spices we bought together on our trip to Italy. I watch her fingers touch the lid, pausing before she unscrews it. Her eyes flicker to me, but she doesn't speak. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to say something, if I even can, but the words won't come. We've been here before, so many times, the fights, the frustration, the cooking disasters. But it's not just about food anymore. It's about everything. The distance between us has been growing for so long, and I never saw it until now. Finally, she looks at me. Do you need anything from the kitchen? I think for a moment, and the absurdity of it strikes me. This kitchen, our kitchen, used to be our world. And now, we're dividing it like it's just another possession. No, I answer, shaking my head. I'm good. She nods, her lips pressed tight. She doesn't seem to know what else to say either. And I wonder, for a second, if there was ever a moment when we were really good at this. At being a couple. After a long pause, Maya grabs her suitcase, then hesitates at the door. She's about to leave for good, and I can't even bring myself to say goodbye. I'll leave the keys on the counter, she says, her voice distant. I don't respond. I can't. I hear the door click shut behind her, and the weight of the house falls into an uncomfortable stillness. A week passes. Then another. And it still feels like I'm waiting for something to change, to fix it. But it doesn't. It's over. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought I'd be relieved, or maybe even angry enough to fight back. But instead, there's just an empty feeling, like someone pulled out a part of me I didn't even know was there. I spend the next few days in the kitchen, alone. The countertops are the same, the knives are the same, the jars of spices still line the shelves. But it doesn't feel the same. The rhythm, the connection, is gone. And no amount of chopping, stirring, or sautéing can bring it back. I move her things into the storage room, the last remnants of her presence filling the space with their absence. The kitchen feels smaller now, like it's shrinking to fit the silence we left behind. But there's something else, too. A shift. A small, almost imperceptible change in the air. The kitchen doesn't just feel empty, it feels like it's waiting for something new. Like it's ready for a new recipe, a new chapter. I take a deep breath, standing in front of the stove. The flame flickers beneath the pan, and for the first time in weeks, I don't feel like I'm just going through the motions. There's something in me, some spark of what I used to love about cooking, and for the first time in a long time, I realize, it's not about Maya anymore. It's about me. I make dinner, but it's different this time. I cook alone, but I cook for myself. No more trying to recreate something that's broken. Just a simple meal, made with care. Later, I sit at the table, eating in silence. I don't feel sad. I don't feel happy. I just feel okay. Maybe this is what it's supposed to feel like. I don't know yet. But at least I'm not trying to fix something that was never mine to fix. And when I'm done eating, I wash the dishes, alone. For the first time, it feels like I'm doing something for me. Not for us. Just for me. And maybe that's the beginning of something new.